The government thought that poisoning alcohol during the Prohibition was a good idea. Newsflash, it wasn't. And what about that 5 second rule? You drop a slice of pizza on the ground, snatch it back up in under 5 seconds, and proudly announce to the world that it's safe to eat. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but it's no good. If you want to know more, here's the facts. There's 20 of them. We all like to brag about multitasking, stirring pasta with one hand and texting with the other, or scrolling through social media while engaging in some philosophical discussion arguing whether a hot dog counts as a sandwich. Well, I hate to break it to you, but multitasking is a myth. The brain can't actually handle two things at once. It's just frantically switching back and forth between tasks. Studies have shown that so-called multitasking destroys productivity by nearly 40% and, ironically, makes you worse at both tasks than if you'd just done them one at a time. Japan's population is aging so fast, they've stopped making diapers for babies. One of the country's biggest manufacturers, OG Holdings, announced that due to the low birth rate, they're done making baby nappies for good. In Japan, adult diapers now outsell baby ones. During Prohibition, the US government was so desperate to stop illegal drinking that they decided it'd be a good idea to poison the alcohol. They spiked industrial booze with toxic chemicals to scare off bootleggers. But the only problem was that people kept drinking it anyway, and the result, an estimated 10,000 deaths. So I guess they did manage to stop people drinking permanently. Most people don't realize just how powerful a simple head nod can be. One study found that people who nodded while speaking were rated 30% more likable and 40% more approachable than those who didn't. Another experiment found that if a person delivers a statement with a nod, we're all 20% more likely to agree with them. The experts call this the nod effect. It's a subtle psychological trick that makes us agree without us even realizing. We've all heard it before. Give a kid too much sugar and you'll have them bouncing off the walls. But science isn't so sure. Researchers tested the sugar hyperactivity link again and again, and the results never changed. Sugar doesn't do a thing. It's all about the context. Sugar shows up at birthday parties, Halloween, school celebrations. I mean, they even lather it on buttered bread. It was never about the sugar. They're just wired to go crazy whenever it's around. I bet you didn't know revolving doors only exist because of one guy who just hated the world. Well, maybe I'm being dramatic. He just hated being polite. I'm talking about Theophilus Van Kannel in 1888. Theo wasn't a fan of holding the door open for people, what most of us would just call being a decent human being. So instead, he invented an awkward spinning glass contraption where if you don't time your escape perfectly, you'll be stuck riding a glass merry-go-round forever. You know that feeling when you're just about to drift off to sleep and suddenly your whole body jolts awake? I know it's unsettling, but rest assured, it happens to us all. It's called a hypnic jerk, not to be confused with hypnotic, which means a completely different thing. And it's a completely normal reflex. As your muscles relax, your brain sometimes misreads the signals. It thinks you're actually falling, not just asleep, but off a cliff. It's basically your brain's survival tactic for a mistake it made itself. Most people know the so-called 5 second rule. You drop that artisan sandwich you just spent half an hour making, grab it off the floor in under 5 seconds, and proudly claim that you've escaped disaster. As if bacteria gives you a 5 second grace period before jumping aboard. Well, if this sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. The truth is, bacteria transfers the moment food touches the floor. I get it. The 5 second rule sounds good in theory, but it's entirely false. Back in the 1950s, a strange story started doing the rounds in New York. People claimed that they saw a man walking down the street, and then in the blink of an eye, he was gone. After vanishing right in front of them, seconds later he reappeared, right in the path of an oncoming car. Police searched his pockets and found strange antique coins to go along with his clothes that appeared to be from some distant century. But the weird thing was that no one could find any evidence of the man ever existing. No documents, no city records, nothing. And as you can imagine, the conspiracy theorists had a field day. Was it just another urban legend or proof that time travel might actually exist? Museums aren't always filled with dinosaurs and antiques. Some are filled with nothing. Literally. The Museum of Non-Visible Art features empty frames and blank pedestals. And if you buy a piece, you don't get a painting or sculpture, you get a written description of what it's supposed to be. And believe it or not, invisible art is expensive, to the point where one piece even sold for $10,000. It's hanging up on their wall at home. Well, they think it is. Here's how you can tell if someone is lying. Stare at their eyes and watch how often they blink. Studies show that during a lie, a person's blink rate drops dramatically. Why is this? Well, it's all due to their cognitive load. It's not easy coming up with a foolproof lie. I mean, there's a pretty good chance the other person just won't believe you. It all takes some serious brain power. Those neurons are busy crafting a convincing story, so blinking takes a back seat. Ever wondered why orange juice tastes like some weird chemical cocktail? Right after brushing your teeth? Was it a bad orange? Maybe the glass is dirty. No, it's all down to chemistry. Toothpaste contains sodium lauryl sulfate, a compound that blocks the tongue's sweet receptors and cranks up the bitter ones. So instead of that sweet citrus, it's just a mouthful of disappointment. You've probably heard the old myth that humans only use 10% of their brains. Well, that's completely untrue. Modern brain scans show we actually use every part of our brain, just not all at the same time. Different regions light up for different jobs, whether it's memory, movement, emotions, or problem solving. The 10% myth stuck around because it sounds dramatic and mysterious, but if we really only use 10% of our brains, we'd be lucky to remember our own names. In the United States, land of feet, inches, and gallons, there's one highway that breaks all the rules. On a stretch of Interstate 19 in Arizona, they've ditched the miles for kilometers and meters. Why? Well, because the road was built in the late 1960s, at a time when the government thought the US might actually switch over to the metric system. But as we all know, it didn't. So today, I-19 is the only place in the country where drivers have no clue what speed they're actually meant to be going. That time when America nearly went metric. When people talk about dangerous websites, the ones riddled with viruses ready to siphon your cash at the click of a button, religious ones don't usually come to mind. But cybersecurity studies say otherwise. You're actually more likely to pick up malware from a church or spiritual site than from an adult one. They go on to explain that big adult platforms pour money into top-notch security because their business depends on trust. But religious websites are small, rarely updated, and much easier for hackers to exploit. So yeah, best to avoid both. Did you know you can actually become a licensed laughter yoga instructor? The idea was born in Mumbai back in 1995 when a doctor wondered if fake laughter could offer the same health benefits as the real thing. And turns out it can. From there, laughter yoga was born. Licensed instructors would get a group of people together and essentially force them to laugh. And the odd thing, other than the whole concept of a licensed laughter yoga instructor, is that while it starts off awkward and forced, we all know laughter is contagious. Soon, everyone is laughing for real. Cats, dogs, and even birds don't actually walk on their feet. They walk on their toes. It's called digitigrade locomotion, that backwards knee looking thing. Well, it's really their ankle. Their actual knee is tucked much higher up, normally hidden in feathers or fur. This gives them some big advantages over us heel to toe walkers. It means cats can stalk prey in complete silence, and dogs can take off at explosive speed. We don't have any of that. We traded all that for balance. Nowhere near as cool. It's no secret that New Zealand has hobbits. The Lord of the Rings made that pretty clear. But they forgot to tell us that they're also home to an official government-funded wizard. Ian Brackenbury-Chanel held the official title of the Wizard of New Zealand. He was paid around $10,000 a year to perform what they called acts of wizardry and enlightenment. Dressed in robes with staff in hand, Brackenbury was there to entertain tourists that rolled through the town. But all good things come to an end. In 2021, they ended his contract. New Zealand is now wizardless. I wouldn't want to be the guy who had to fire a wizard. Hollywood actress Jane Mansfield tragically died in 1967 after a car slammed into the back of a semi. The crash exposed a terrifying flaw that cars could actually slide right under trailers. So the government stepped in, requiring all semis to be fitted with steel underride guards, those horizontal bars that you can still see hanging from the back of trucks today, also known as Mansfield bars. Imagine a traffic jam so massive it stretched for 175 miles. Then swap the cars for trees. The Great Raft was a massive log jam that clogged up the Red River in Louisiana for centuries. And by massive, I mean this thing literally created entire lakes and reshaped hundreds of miles of farmland around it. So how long did it take to clear the biggest log jam ever recorded? 5 years. They even had to design special snag boats, complete with giant iron jaws, to rip trees out of the river. It was one of the earliest large-scale engineering efforts at the time. And so we come to the end of another 20 random facts. But it doesn't have to end there. Did you hear about the con man that managed to sell the Eiffel Tower twice? How about the world's most expensive coffee? Trust me, you don't want to know where it actually comes from. Anyway, stay tuned to the channel and thanks for your support.